Hi, It Gets Better community. I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Ina, and I have a podcast. It's at inanutshellpod.com. And I am a very, very proud ally. So I decided to have my friend Eric come on the podcast and tell me about his coming out story and, give us a little bit of inspiration. And I'm hoping that a lot of allies will also listen to it so that they know how they can help and what they can do to support the GLBTA community. So come and listen to the whole thing at the website, or you can also download it in iTunes. But Eric and I basically selected the pieces of the interview that we thought would be helpful to the It Gets Better community, and that's what you will hear in this video. So you'll get to see a little picture of me and Eric just doing silly things with a cat bag. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Again, if you want to listen to the whole thing, just go to the website, inanutshellpod.com, and it's episode 23. See you later. Hey everybody, this is In a Nutshell Podcast with Ina. This episode is sponsored by nobody. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/inanutshellpod or our website at inanutshellpod.com. The podcast begins now. So I need to introduce you first because nobody knows who you are.
Right. This is right.
So
everybody knows who I am.
This is my friend Eric.
Hi, podcast friends.
And I hope that you will send this to everybody because you know 500,000 people. And
I don't know that many.
But they know you.
I unfriended a lot of people on Facebook recently, actually.
You have
unfriended. Went through, did a 2013 clean out.
My sister did
all the high school people?
Yeah.
Gone.
My sister did that, and she said she's feeling so much happier about her news feed.
Right.
Because now she's actually reading people that she cares about.
Right.
So I just don't like getting invitations to join my calendar and join my birthday from people that I haven't seen in 25 years.
Don't even get me started.
Right?
Yes.
So
I don't want to sign your digital yearbook. I didn't want to sign your real yearbook when we were friends in high school. Yeah, no.
Speaking of high school, so the reason that I wanted to interview you, number one, is because I thought you would be a great interviewer because you're just a very animated person.
Right, okay.
This is a given.
Buttering me up.
Number two is because I wanted to have a very, very gay episode.
We can do that here.
I wanted to talk about, gay rights, gay issues.
Okay.
Everything gay.
Cat purses.
$200 Christmas trees after Christmas.
That's pretty inexpensive. It's a good deal.
I don't think so.
It's not very gay, though. Not right now. It's not even decorated.
So, since you brought up high school, I'm going to start with...
Okay.
I want you to tell me your story.
My story.
First of all right, when did you start thinking, I think I'm gay? Is this something you've always thought? Did you have girlfriends? What was middle school, high school life like for you?
So I didn't come out until I was 25, which is after high school for most, myself included.
For most.
So I didn't come out until I was 25-ish. And then looking back, I realized I had attractions to guys and crushes on my best friends, but I didn't know at the time that I was gay.
What did you think?
Nothing. I didn't think about it at all. But, I had two girlfriends. The first one turned out to be a lesbian.
Nice.
And we never even kissed. We went to prom together. We never kissed. We just hung out together all the time. She was the little sister of my best friend in high school.
So it seems to me also that the internet is helping and not helping at the same time.
It's both.
It's helping because you can it's a lot easier to find a community for anything.
Right.
There's a belief system for anything in the internet.
Right.
So you can find a community very easily, but at the same time, one thing that bothers me the most is the bullying.
Yeah.
Because when I was growing up, I was bullied every day. Every year that I was in school, I would beg my parents to let me change schools because it wasn't a regional thing. You could change schools if you wanted.
Okay.
My mother kept coming back saying, I checked, they don't have any vacancy in the other school. Sorry, you're stuck here for another year. And that was awful for me.
Right.
I had no friends. I had a different friend every year, and then the next year they would drop me, and I would have to go and try to pick another one. It was very, very hard for me in school.
Right.
I can't imagine, my case a little bit different because I would go home and I get bullied by my older sister. So I really couldn't escape it.
Right.
But at least I could escape all the awful, awful people in school, and you can't do that anymore.
No.
And that breaks my heart.
Exactly.
You know, I don't want my son to be on Facebook.
Right,
like, I
right.
want to shield him from this stuff, but how do I
Right.
do that without him losing a very important part of the now, electronic culture?
Right. Right. Well, but at the same time, I mean, say, for the example, say Gregory, if he comes out for whatever reason, when he gets older, just knowing that you're supportive and that you love him no matter what, that automatically adds an incredible layer of love and support that he would need if he was getting bullied at school. Some of these kids are gay. They're getting bullied at school. They can't hide that they're gay just because they're too effeminate, or in the case of girls, they're lesbians that are very masculine. They just can't hide. But if they have parents at home that also espouse very conservative beliefs,
right.
where does that kid go? What do they do? They can't say, Mom and Dad, I'm getting bullied because people call me gay, because then they think their parents will be just as abusive. And what do they do? So fortunately, in that case, they do have the internet to reach out to other little friends and, make friends online. But you're right. I mean, cyberbullying is extremely dangerous, and very pervasive, which I think you made the great point that, when you and I were growing up, you walk away from the school and there was no cell phone.
Right.
People could call you on your home phone.
Right.
They could call and do a prank call or something, but then you hit star 69 and you know who it is. But now it's text, it's email, it's everything, and there's no way to turn it off. So
how can I make sure that my baby knows that I'm supportive if I don't really want to? I don't want to try to steer him in either direction.
Right.
I don't want to, not that
show
I'm
him all the
not
directions.
That I'm steering, but
I don't steer, just show. So when he's older, if it's his birthday, me and Steve are there, and you introduce us as a couple. Or if he's got a friend, that's gay or whatever, that just say, oh, he's great, I hope he, and just say, and even as he's growing up, no matter who you are, no matter who you love or whatever, I'll love you because you're my mom, and I love you, little Sean. So it's giving the exposure to the community and showing the positive aspects of all communities.
Can you be Tio Eric?
Tio Eric, yes, I can be Tio Eric. Tio Enrique.
Tio Enrique Montoya.
There it is. So it's but whether it's showing them your Catholic community, and that's a very loving and accepting community, or showing them the parts of the gay community, or explaining what it is at some point in the future. So those are all little small things you can do that to not steer him, and just say you have to be gay, or you have to be straight, you have to be straight. Right. It's just that just show that these different communities and facets of life exist, and that they're all positive, and they all have their very strong benefits.
Speaking of which, I did want to ask you for your opinion. So they had this news story, I don't remember which channel, I don't remember which show, of this little boy, I think he must have been 7 years old, who loved playing with dolls. He was all about pink, not blue. He was all about, dresses and not pants,
Right.
And the mother, turns out she's a sociologist who actually works with, kids that, with adolescents, might be looking to sexual orientation, that kind of thing. So she says she immediately identified the signs, that he might actually be gay or transsexual or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So she encourages it. She goes and she, if he wants dolls, buys him dolls, gets him nail polish so he can use it and all this stuff.
Right.
Now, my husband and I were talking about it because we didn't know what to think of this.
Right.
Because this boy is very little.
Right.
Now, I'm of the belief that you're born, whichever way you're born. This is really not something you make. It's something you're born with. So my husband and I were talking about it. It's like, he's so little. Like, he doesn't even know what sexual orientation is.
Right.
Right now, he just likes to play with dolls, and now he's realizing. I mean, there's a news story about him, for goodness sake. Like, he's realizing all the attention that he's getting by making these decisions of choosing to play with these things.
Right.
So the real test really is, talk to him 10 years from now. Is he going to be like really gay and really happy that his parents were so supportive with his way of life, or he's actually a completely straight person who said, who's completely traumatized by the fact that he grew up wearing dresses, but it's
Right.
not, because he's been basically conditioned to think that this is a good thing. My parents are encouraging it. My parents love me. They keep telling me that they love me because of this. So
Right.
I don't really know what to think. I am not gay, and I don't know what it's
Right.
like, and I
Right.
don't know what it would be like to be a 7-year-old gay person. But
Well,
what do you think?
I think it's a very complicated decision. I don't think either of us really know the full extent of this family's relationship or this child. But
Right.
that being said, I mean, if this kid, I think the big sensationalism around this, again, in the media, why would we even know about this? It's just one child and one parent,
Right.
and there's 300 million others in the United States alone.
Right.
That, this is a very interesting story. But in the end, if this child identifies as transgendered, which means for some of your listeners, who transgender is much different. It's part of the gay community, or where we all kind of band together. But basically, transgender means that your brain thinks you are a different gender than what your body is.
Right.
And I hope I don't offend transgender friends of mine or whatever, but to me, I think the easiest way to understand it is Freaky Friday kind of movie, where you go to sleep one night and the next morning you wake up in a different gender body, and you look at your body. And right now I'm a male. I identify as male. I like being a guy. But if I wake up in the morning and I'm in a woman's body, you're like, I'm in the wrong body.
Right.
I was born as the wrong gender.
Right.
So, for instance, if it's a man, or if a transgender person was born male but identifies as a woman inside, they want to transition their body to look like a woman's,
Right.
to have breasts, etc. And so it's like you got transplanted into the wrong body. So it's a really different part of the community. It's not very well understood by either gay, lesbian, bisexual, or heterosexual. But and so you get a lot of transphobia. Basically people that that woman looks like a guy because it is a guy. That's bullshit. That's how she identifies. If it's a man who is transgender or born as male and transitions to live as a female, she's a she. It's like, and in that case, when she transitions, it's like a straight woman that got trapped in a man's body. It's very different. It challenges a lot of preconceptions that we have in our daily lives, and people don't really know how to handle the sensitivities of it and how to refer to them and how to, what pronouns to use, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So it's a very complicated discussion. That being said, in my workplace, we actually do have several out transgender people, and I've gotten to know them, and they're fantastic. And, they're very smart. They're really sweet people. And so they are who they are.
Right.
Going back to your question around this kid, and if you ask any transgender person or any gay person or any person, straight as well, if you look back on your life as an adult and then you look back as a child and you look at yourself, do you think you realized at the time that you were identifying with a different sexual orientation or a different gender, independent of whether you actually you didn't have sexual attractions at 7 years old. We're not developed yet. But you know where you are, and you know who you are, and you know what attracts you. I do remember playing with my mom's stuff, playing with my mom's costume jewelry and liking her shoes and all that kind of stuff. And I was like 7,
Right.
I didn't know that I was going to be attracted to guys. I didn't have sexual feelings around anything. I was 7.
Right.
But this child that was in the media, this child likes to play with girls and dolls and feels like she is female, even though he was born as a boy. And I think the parents basically just say, if my child's transgender, so be it. If this makes my child happy, I'm going to keep my child happy. I don't think it's promoting and and like cultivating and fostering and pushing a different gender on the child. It's not like the parents are saying, no, we're going to start dressing you as a little girl, even though you're a little boy. And the child's like, I don't want to. I'm not happy. I'm a boy. I want to wear boys' clothes. This is a child that was born a boy, and he says, I like girls' clothes. I like dresses. And you never know what's going to happen, but who cares? I mean, the kid's going to get bullied, of course. We're all bullied for different reasons.
Right.
But in the end, if the parents raise that child and expose him to both sides, that, what it means to be transgender, what it means to be heterosexual, as well as why people might not agree with what they're doing and why people might be confused by it or look negatively upon it. If the child can talk through those things with their parents and understand them, then the child eventually will make the decision on their own.
Right.
And they'll identify with a gender on their own.
Yeah.
And the parents just want their child to be happy. So
Right.
I'm all for that. And it's not like the kid's doing anything that hurts anybody.
Right.
You know, to me,
Right.
that's kind of the ultimate litmus test.
Right.
Is someone being injured physically, emotionally, spiritually by this activity? And if the answer is no, you know, if this child's not hurting anybody by wearing a dress, he might be freaking some people out or might be scaring some other kids at school, but he's not hurting them. And
Right.
to me, I'm like, let the child check it out, because they're going to check it out one way or the other.
Right.
And if the child grows up, if he grows up to be gay, great. If he grows up to be transgender and transition to live as a female, at least he'll know that his parents are supportive no matter what.
Right.
Versus having to hide in shame and you know, potentially even, you know, be destructive to themselves, whether through alcohol or drugs or, you know, self-abuse or something worse.
Right.
Because they don't think that the people that, you know, who are supposed to be your biggest champion, your parents, won't love you because of something that's so fundamental about your persona.
Right.
I mean, if any of your podcast viewers think about, you know, I identify my sexual orientation as, and I identify my gender as, and I identify who I am internally as this. And if that is in conflict with people that are supposed to love you,
Right.
and that they would stop loving you because they knew that about you, to me, that's really sad and really scary.
Yeah.
So these parents are just saying, you know, no matter what, we're going to love you because we think you're awesome and you're our kid.
Yeah.
So
It's the feeling of being alone.
Right.
Is not something I would wish on anybody. So if there's people listening that don't know who to go to, are there resources in town? This is a Boston-based podcast, so you know you would know about Boston things. What are there national things? Like, what should people be looking for online if they really need to talk to somebody?
So there's a few things. There's nationally, once the podcast goes national.
Nice.
There's called the Trevor Project, which is a suicide hotline for kids that identify as GLBT. They can call up 24 hours a day. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but it's called the Trevor Project.
I can post it on the description of this podcast so people know.
But the Trevor Project was started as a suicide prevention hotline for kids that identify as GLBT because there was a kid named Trevor who committed suicide because he was gay and he was bullied. And the one really neat campaign that's grown out of that is called the It Gets Better campaign.
Right.
And so lots and lots of famous people like President Obama and movie stars and all that kind of stuff say, if you can survive high school, if you can survive getting bullied because you identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, or even if people assume that about you, even if you're not, or even if you haven't identified that way, that it gets better. Once you get out of that really tough situation, you can go on and your life will improve once you move away from high school and you grow into your own body, into your own self.
Right.
You go somewhere where it's more educated and smarter and people are more inclusive and, you know, people don't care. It's just one more facet of who you are. It's not a bad thing.
And
so,
what stinks about high school, a lot of things stink about high school, but what really stinks about it is that kind of bullying behavior would never be accepted in a workplace. Like, this is harassment.
Actually, it is.
You know?
Yeah, unfortunately it is, but it's more so in high school.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, so that's why, you know, we all have to foster that kind of environment in our workplaces, and it's
Right.
really all up to us. Since, like, in high school, you don't have those defenses. There's no way to go and sue somebody. There's no policies protecting
Correct.
it. So it's really up to the schools to enforce, you know, from the top down, a bullying, you know,
Anti-bullying,
education,
yeah.
anti-bullying, and you know,
Right.
programs and all this stuff. And
Right.
I don't know if you've ever heard of. I don't know if you have heard of any programs that schools are doing or
There
anything
are.
like that.
There's a few things, and again, we're very fortunate here because we have a progressive culture. But in lots of high schools, there's things called a GSA, which is a Gay Straight Alliance, where gay kids and straight allies can come together. You know, and they're high school kids. You know, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and or it's mentored by a school teacher or by a school counselor to basically have a safe space for people that are questioning about their orientation or their gender to know that they can come to this group and have support. that they can report that if they're being bullied, etc. So that's a Gay Straight Alliance, or a GSA. The other thing here is Bagley, which is Boston Area Gay and Lesbian Youth Coalition, I think. Basically a support group for young GLBT kids to get to know each other, get to know the community.
That's neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then there's two organizations. One is PFLAG, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. They do speaking engagements at schools and at universities and high schools, etc., to talk about, as a gay adult, what does life look like after high school? And what does it mean to be GLBT, and why does it matter? So basically they bring in people like us to talk to high school kids and just say, and so that those kids can ask questions, both positive and negative. I always welcome really tough, challenging questions, even some that might be considered offensive, because it's a way to dispel ignorance about a false question. So there's that, and there's also another group called Speak Out, which is basically speakers that go in and speak to same kind of audiences, etc., or maybe even in the workplace, and just say, what does it mean to be GLBT, and why do you want to have a more inclusive workspace?
So we're almost up to the hour, and I just
really?
want to, I know.
It's fast.
It flies fast. So
I'm not even out of high school yet.
I want to, we didn't even cover it. We'll have to do part 2.
I know, right?
But we have to set the record straight.
Gay 2.
No pun intended, setting the record straight. There's a lot of people that don't really know the difference between gay, bisexual, transgender, transsexual.
Right.
Did I say that one twice?
No, transgender, transsexual.
So I want to go through the definitions. Let's start with gay.
Right. So gay is both a broad and a narrow definition. Gay on the whole is basically anyone that is homosexual. So it could be applied to a man that is sexually attracted and emotionally attracted to other men, or it could be considered for a woman that's attracted to other women. And so that's gay on the broad scale. But it's also more commonly applied to just guys. So I'm a gay male. I identify as gay. And so if you call a guy gay, that means that he's attracted to other men. Lesbian is just for women that are attracted to women. So lesbians are gay, but gay guys are not lesbians. So,
thank you for that Venn diagram.
Yes. That overlap there. So, but lesbians are basically women that are attracted to other women. Again, homosexual. Bisexual means that basically the person is attracted to either gender. And so they don't really care, or both genders. So, and basically you can think about it as a spectrum. Again, kind of going back to your points earlier, it's very black and white. America loves to make stuff black and white.
Right.
Sexuality and sexual orientation is much more fluid, and also there's grayscale. I'm super gay. I'm way gay. But tiny little percent of me thinks some women are pretty.
Okay.
But on the whole, I've never been attracted to a woman, or it's very, very rare. But there's some people, like bisexual people, who are more in the middle of the spectrum. And then going on the other side, you might have someone that's completely heterosexual. Right. A male that's only attracted to women and only finds them sexually engaging. And likewise with women that only really want to be sexually attracted and physically attracted and emotionally attracted to men.
Right.
But there's not a clear cut in between there. Bisexual people are somewhere in between, and I think everybody has some fluidity to their orientation, but basically bisexual people are more in the middle. So if they find someone that they really like, and if it's a guy and he's really into guys and he's sexually attracted to guys, but he's also sexually attracted to women, that's bisexual.
Right.
There is also transgender. So again, transgender is basically someone that was born in a body that's different than the gender that they feel that they are inside. Basically, their brain doesn't agree with their body. And they can be both homosexual or bisexual or heterosexual.
Right.
So for instance, a coworker of mine, she was born as a male. She's transitioned to live as a female. She's attracted to men. So she is a straight woman that was born in a male's body. And so it's, that's really advanced stuff.
Right.
I mean, the transgender community is very different, but they are awesome people. And if you think about the amount of courage that it takes to not only challenge sexual orientation, but also gender roles, and to live yourself as, whatever gender you identify with internally, even if your body doesn't quite fit that mold, it takes an incredible amount of courage every day.
Right.
And a lot of risk. So, and then there's queer. Queer used to be a really negative word. Like in the 60s and 70s, it was a very derogatory term. Younger kids today have taken on queer as kind of their new way, because it's not only inclusive of different sexual orientations, it's also inclusive of different gender identities. So you might have a young girl who dresses very masculine. She identifies as a girl. She might be into girls. She might be into guys. She might float back and forth. That's queer. And I'd say it's more common for like people under 30, people under 25 to start identifying with queer. Questioning, people that just aren't sure yet.
Yeah.
Intersexed, which is
never heard that one before.
Intersexed is the nice way of saying hermaphrodite.
Okay.
Someone that was born with both types of genitals, which is not actually too uncommon. And then basically the doctor assigns them while they're still a baby to be one gender or the other.
I have heard about that. I have heard about that situation. I didn't realize it had a name now.
Yeah. So, I mean, the classic name, or the more old school name, is hermaphrodite, he, she, or whatever. But a more up-to-date term is intersexed.
Intersexed.
Transsexual?
Are we missing
transsexual is part of the transgender community. I think, and forgive my ignorance here, I believe transsexual is someone that has actually reassigned their gender to be the other sex.
All right.
But transgender people may or may not be physically reassigned to live in the other gender body. And even different facet of that community is cross-dressers.
Right.
You can have straight cross-dressers. Some people who identify as heterosexual or as straight as can be like to cross-dress. Right. But it's more common that you'll find transgender folks who are basically GLBT, and they dress in transvestite. But I don't think transvestite's a really welcomed word anymore.
Okay.
So
good to know.
If someone doesn't follow a gender norm, I just call them transgender or trans.
Right.
And then if you're not sure how to address somebody, ask. Say, hey, I don't want to be insensitive, but I want to make sure that I treat you just like I treat any of my other friends. Do you prefer to be, what name do you prefer to be addressed by, and do you prefer which pronoun?
Right.
Sometimes, and they'll really know. You can just say, I'm an ally. I just want to make sure that I make you feel welcome here. How do you identify? And, do you identify as male or female? And would you like me to use male or female pronouns? And it's an intimidating conversation to have.
Right.
You don't want to offend somebody.
You want to treat everybody with respect.
With respect, right. But then you also, it takes a lot of courage on your behalf to ask that. But then also that person says, wow, she really went out of her way to make sure that I'm comfortable here and that she treats me as the person that I identify as. Yeah. So, actually, there's one more. There's pansexual. They basically drift between their sexual orientation. Sometimes they're straight, sometimes they're gay, but they don't identify as bi. So
you do realize I am going to be writing all of these definitions out in the body of this podcast, so people can see them. So you're making it harder and harder for me. You're just coming up with names now.
No.
Just making
stuff up.
Yeah.
So
and I will put everything that you mentioned, all of these organizations and phone numbers, I'll put them in the body of the message. So if people are listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher, all you have to do is go to inanutshellpod.com, and it's episode 23. You have an episode number.
I have a 23.
Yeah, episode 23. So look it up with Eric, and I'll have all of that information in there for everybody.
Yeah. And I would say to listeners, even if they have questions or they want to challenge me or disagree with me, I welcome the feedback. I always welcome the questions and all that. And if you have somebody in your life that identifies as GLBT and you don't know how to engage them, ask. Just say, I want to talk with you about this. I want to learn more, just like you have. Because that's the best way to start a dialogue and to break down the ignorance and the fear around it. So
cool. So I can put a contact form so that people don't have your straight email address, but I can put a contact.
Or my gay email address, as
Your
it
gay
were.
email, what is it, like gay@gmail.com? That is not his email
That would be an
address.
awesome address. If I could get that address, I'm going to go try.
People, don't go email that because it's not going to get to Eric. Go to my website, inanottalkpod.com, find episode 23, and I'll have a contact form so you can actually submit questions directly to Eric.
That'd be great.
So we'll make that happen.
Yay!
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you,
You've
Ina.
been a good sport.
Thank you, blog friends.
Thank you, podcast listeners.
Thank you, new little radio thing. Looks like a breathalyzer.
I'll take a picture of it so people can see it. But
I just breathed into there to see if it'll measure my blood alcohol content,
no,
even though
it won't.
just been drinking water.
It'll just sound like a big loud whisper.
I know, right?
Thanks.
I am a big loud whisper.
Oh.
No.
So thank you, Eric.
Well, thank you, little blog friends.
And say
okay.
bye-bye.
Bye, friends.
Bye, everybody.